Now, Bishop, I understand we've got a new arrangement for you to hear.
Yes, it's working very well.
It is?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Well, if you have any difficulties, just alert us.
Raise my hand, yes, thank you.
Can I show you tab 239? It will come up on the screen. Now, this is a letter to you from the people running Encompass in August 2003. Have you seen that letter recently, Bishop?
Oh, I don't know about recently, but I'm aware of it.
And Encompass was the organisation that was established by the church to provide treatment to priests who sexually abused children, among others.
Yeah, well, first examination to see whether there were any problems about their health or their mental state or whatever. Yes. And
you referred Farrell to Encompass for a report and assessment?
Oh, yes, indeed.
And this is the report that you received back in 2003?
Yes.
And if you go down to the second paragraph, there's reference there to Mr. Farrell stating he wished to gain deeper insight into his offending behaviour. Do you see that? It's the last two lines of the second paragraph. Yes, and then in the next paragraph, you're informed that Mr. Farrell continues to pose a serious risk to children and adolescents. See that in the second and third line of that. And then in the next paragraph, there's reference to his pattern of sexually abusive behaviour being long-term.
Yes.
And then the final paragraph, on that page, back onto page 1. The last sentence is, our concern is that Mr. Farrell is accountable to no one and continues to pose an unacceptable risk to minors. Now, what did you do when you received that letter in relation to Farrell?
I think I immediately started a process to laicise him.
I beg your pardon?
I think I immediately started a process to laicise him. He must leave the priesthood.
And you did that in order for him not to be able to call himself a priest and by being a priest have access to children, is that right?
Yes. Get him out.
I beg your pardon, get him out?
Well, yes.
Now, we know that the laicization process occurred in 2005.
Yes.
So it took a couple of years.
Well, in those days you couldn't get a laicization done without the cooperation and knowledge of the person. So it took me a while to convince him that he needs to come and talk to me. He has to tell his story. And I listened to that and I wrote it all down, and he came back the next day and signed that this was a correct record of our conversation and of his story.
Understand that. But in the period between getting this report and Farrell being laicized, did you put any measures in place in order to ensure that he was in some way accountable to the church and to minimise the risk that he posed to minors?
Nothing comes to mind. I think he was quite well aware that he wasn't to go to schools and all that sort of thing.
So you didn't yourself, on your initiative following receipt of this document, put anything particularly in place?
No, I think, I'm not sure whether that was already in place, but he was told not to go to schools.
And that's the letter that I referred you to earlier?
Probably, yes.
Anything else?
Well, not that I can recall it, I would know.
Do you see the reference to our concern is that Mr. Farrell is accountable to no one? Was it the case in the church that given he didn't have faculties but was still a priest, could call himself a priest and wear priestly clothing, he was not accountable to the church?
I don't understand that sentence.
Did you consider him to be accountable to you,
Oh, most certainly.
even though he didn't have faculties?
Yes,
Because he was still a priest of the diocese.
that's right.
So having received this, is there anything more you did in relation to his accountability to you?
Not that I can recall.
Now, you were asked some questions before lunch about compensation and money. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Now, while you were bishop, there was a civil case brought against the diocese. Do you remember that?
No, I need some more reference to some detail that
Certainly.
jog my memory.
It was-
Sorry.
Perhaps if I can show you document 248.
Okay.
Now, this is an affidavit by CPE. Now, you'll see on your list in front of you who CPE is.
Right.
And it's in relation to a case brought by CPK, who is who was a child relevant to the time of the subject matter of the claim. Do you see that? See those names down there?
Yeah.
Now, do you remember it coming to your attention in 2004, 2005 that your diocese was being sued by somebody in relation to child sexual abuse claims?
Not that I can recall now.
No?
No, I don't recall this.
Given the attitude that you've indicated to us you had in relation to the payment of monies by the diocese, it's certainly something that would remain with you, isn't it, Bishop, that the diocese was being sued by someone for child sexual offences or in relation to sexual offences that had occurred earlier?
I probably would have gone to our diocesan lawyer to ask what must I do here, or
And sought their advice.
yes.
Now, if we can just have tab 248A. Now, Bishop, these are handwritten notes dated January 2005. Have you seen those notes before?
Not that I can recall.
Is the handwriting at all familiar to you?
No.
You see there's reference to Rod Watts on the phone? It's the top line.
Must it be he thought better?
See Rod Watts on phone?
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. Yes.
Who was Rod Watts in 2005?
He was part of our legal representation. I mean, we used his company, when we needed advice on this or any other matter for the law.
And you see the next line refers to Monsignor Peters?
Yes.
He was a priest in your diocese at the time?
Yes.
Did he have some particular responsibility in relation to legal matters on behalf of the diocese?
Well, he was my expert canon lawyer.
Now, if we can scroll down the document, and we can stop about there, there's reference to we to talk, and do you see that word? I suggest it might be an abbreviation of contribution.
Could be, yes.
And then Armadale file has lot of damaging material, stop, want to settle.
Yes.
You see that?
Yes.
Now, did it come to your attention around this time that the lawyers were concerned about, as it's described here, damaging material on the diocese files?
Not that I can recall.
No?
No.
And were you involved in settlement decisions in relation to this case? You were?
I think so, yes.
And having seen this note, does that assist you to recall what was said in relation to settlement negotiations concerning this case?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Certainly. Having looked at this document,
Yes.
written by the lawyer or perhaps if we can scroll up again, in relation to a telephone conversation with your lawyer.
Yeah.
Does that help you remember how the case was considered by the diocese and how the settlement came about?
I think a settlement was made in that instance, or in this particular...
Yes, it was, Bishop. And your involvement in that settlement?
I suppose I would be asked, I don't know.
You don't remember it?
No.
No, and you see that there's a number of conversations recorded. The 28th of January appears to be each of them. Do you see that?
What about this?
That there are a number of conversations that seem to be dated the 28th of January that's recorded in the note.
There's one there, yes.
And if you scroll down, there's a number of others.
Okay.
Now, if I can then turn to 248B. Now, this seems to be the same handwriting, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it's dated the 10th of February. And it refers to a telephone conversation with Father Bob McGuckin. Now, he was a priest of the Diocese of Parramatta, wasn't he?
That's right.
And you knew him from that time?
Oh, I knew him earlier than that.
But
Because he was also sent to Canada to do a degree in canon law.
Thank you. Now, if we can go further down that document. There's... Perhaps if we can go up further to the beginning of the document. Is that the beginning of the document?
Yeah.
No, I think there's an earlier page. Is there another page that you've got that's available to us? I understand that, but still 2 pages. Perhaps if you can go down to the next page. Now, that refers again to Father McGuckin, who we've spoken about. There's references to status of offers and the like, and how much Armidale may contribute. See that in the second paragraph? Do you want some more time to read the document?
No, I see that, yes.
And then scrolling down, there's reference to Rod Watt on the phone, and he was your lawyer at this time.
Yes.
And there's recorded there is discussing offers. And then the next line, speak to Monsignor Peters, and he was the person, I think you've said, was engaged in these matters on behalf of the diocese.
Yes.
And then he will seek and I suggest that's an abbreviation of adjournment tomorrow, because Armidale documents under subpoena are, quote, dynamite.
Right.
Now, did that come to your attention?
I don't recall.
Do you remember anyone telling you that the files held by Armidale in the context of this sort of litigation was damaging or dynamite?
I don't remember anybody telling me that.
Was that a view that you had?
Oh, I don't know what document that's referring to.
Well, was it a view that you had, regardless of this document, in relation to files held by your diocese in relation to civil claims against the diocese arising out of priests within the diocese sexually abusing children?
I don't really know what to say. I can't recall any of the details that
Were you concerned at any time during your position as bishop
Yes.
that there was material in the files held by your diocese which could be damaging to the diocese if you were to be sued in relation to the conduct of the diocese or those within it in relation to...
I can't recall now giving that consideration.
Familiar to you, the concept of concern that the files were containing information that might be considered...
No, that's not familiar to me.
Not familiar to you at all?
No.
And you indicated before your view as to compensation or payments to be made to victims of child sexual abuse at the hands of the diocesan clergy. This is an incident of where your lawyers were involved and, as you indicated earlier, there was a settlement and money was paid.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Does anyone else have any questions? I can't see Mr. Gray at the moment. You have no questions. No one else?
May I ask a few questions?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Bishop, just on this...
Just tell everyone who you are.
Yes, thank you. My name is Skinner and I'm representing your interests.
Yes.
Just on this question of subpoenas, do you ever recall the Diocese of Armidale, of which you were the bishop, in 2004 getting a subpoena to produce documents about J.J. Farrell?
I can't recall that now.
Can you look at, if it could come up on the screen, please, to you, document 242. That may need to be enlarged. You see that? It appears to be something coming out of the district court in May of 2004. Scroll down a bit. It's directed to effectively the Diocese of Parramatta. Do you see that?
Yes.
And scroll down, and it seeks documents. If one could scroll down, please. About J.J. Farrell. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you remember seeing one like that, similar document, similar subpoena coming to the Diocese of Armidale?
No, I've never...
Do you have any explanation as to why those documents were being sought from Parramatta in 2004?
I have no idea.
When you came to the Armidale Diocese in March of 1999, as you've said, there was a bit of an interregnum between bishops, correct?
Yes.
Your predecessor was Bishop Heather, is that correct?
No.
In Armidale, man?
No.
Sorry, you're right. Your predecessor was Bishop Kevin Manning.
That's right. As bishop, he was a bishop. Yes.
In Armidale?
Yes.
And where did he go after Armidale?
He was transferred to, or translated is the technical term we use, translated to Parramatta.
Yes, thank you. Could the witness be shown then the next file note, the next document, please, after that subpoena being 243 in the tender bundle? If that could be scrolled down a bit, please. That appears to be a letter from Bishop Manning in 2004 to the solicitors of, or acting for the Diocese of Parramatta, Mackinson and Dappergy. And would you accept about that subpoena that I just showed you a minute ago? Do you see that?
Do I see what?
The letter I'm suggesting to you, and you can accept or take it from me as an assumption, appears to be a letter from Bishop Manning
Yes.
to his lawyers, or the diocese's lawyers, about that subpoena seeking the file of Reverend John Farrell to be produced in the district court.
Yes.
From that document, it would appear that at least a copy of the file of Mr Farrell went with Bishop Manning down to Parramatta with him when he left Armidale.
Maybe, I don't know that.
Would that be a normal practice?
No.
When you took over in March of 1999, were you given any sort of formal handover process?
Not that I can recall.
Well, I assume Monsignor Ryan, who'd been administering the diocese for a couple of years, met you and showed you around?
Well, when I was announced to be the next Bishop of Armidale, I contacted Monsignor Frank Ryan and said I'd like to come up and meet the priests. So I forget what the exact date, but soon after that I went up to Armidale, and Monsignor Frank Ryan met me at the airport and took me to Gunnedah, where there was a meeting of priests of that area of the diocese for me to meet them and them to see me. The next day we had a similar meeting in Armidale where I met the priests who were working in that part of the diocese, and then I went back home. So contact had been made. So I suppose you could call that introduction, I don't know, but...
Were you introduced to any documents or files in a similar manner by Monsignor Ryan?
No.
Thank you. Now, finally, you referred to the man Farrell as J.J. Farrell.
Yes.
You insist on doing that?
I do, because it makes clear in my mind who we are talking about.
Do you...
And you can say J.J. Farrell when he was a priest or when he was not a priest. You could always refer to him as J.J. Farrell.
And you don't wish to really call him Reverend John Farrell or Father Farrell? Why is that?
We'll be talking about a person who has a long history of characteristics in his personality, if I can put it that way.
No.
We're talking about the same person here, the same one here. J.J. Farrell we're talking about.
All right. Finally, you were asked about the Encompass program in that letter. Ms Finesse showed you just a while ago, being, I think, a report back to you. I'll show you that again, 239. I'm just reminding you of that. Then, if the witness could be shown, please. I think you were shown email 223. Have a look at that. Is that the week's course there that is referred to, that you wanted him to go to, the one he eventually went to in 2003, being the Encompass course?
I would say so, yes.
Can the witness be shown, please, Exhibit 224? That could be enlarged. Can you see that, Bishop? That would seem to indicate that he was resistant to being sent down there. Is that correct?
Oh, yes.
And it would seem that it took a few years for you to get him to go. Is that correct?
That's right.
Did you press him to go through that period?
Eventually, yes.
Yes, thank you. Those are my questions.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Bishop. That concludes your evidence. You're excused.
Thank you, Your Honour.
Your Honour, I wish to tender the balance of transcripts of interviews conducted by Mr Whitlam and the tender bundle as a whole, which includes his report. So perhaps if I can describe it as the Whitlam tender bundle, with the exception of tabs W2 and W3, which have been separately tendered as exhibits 44.6 and 44.7.
With those exceptions, we'll make the bundle exhibit 44.9.
Thank you. And, Your Honour, the next witness will be at 10 a.m. on Monday morning.
So I just got one matter to raise if I might. Given that material has just been tendered. Your Honour would recall, Your Honours would recall that on Monday, on behalf of the state, I made certain submissions in connection with the protection of the trial, which is listed in April 2017. There have been communications going on between our team and the Commission's lawyers about certain materials that we would seek be redacted, and there's been a large amount of agreement reached with respect to some of those documents. We are concerned as to certain, some still remaining documents that we might be seeking some redactions in respect of, so as to reduce the risk in relation to the April 2017 trial. It's been indicated to me by my learned friend, Ms Finesse, that at the time the trial is actually heard, it is likely that the Commission would remove this particular case study from its website. And so if that is going to be the proposal, then that would certainly lessen some of the concerns that the state would have with respect to the trial, although we would be seeking that perhaps, if that is going to happen, that it happen perhaps in March, shortly before the trial.
Well, if the trial's going ahead, the state can contact us, and of course we will assist as may be appropriate at the time. There has been, over a few years, discussion about takedown orders, including recent discussion about takedown orders as against instructions given to juries, but
yes,
leaving that to one side and the judge's scepticism about them, we will certainly do whatever is reasonable when asked at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Ron. So, in that respect, that removes some of the concern that the state has. However, there are still some documents about which we're just, in the light of that indication, we're taking instructions about as to whether we would still seek redactions of certain of the tab material. In that respect, would Your Honour give me leave to, if we are in fact instructed to continue to seek these redactions, to file a written document with through my learned friend, setting out those areas where agreement has not been reached about redactions. And we're happy to give a copy to everybody who's hearing.
Sorry,
this is
documents which are presently on the...
Which have been tendered, but which are not yet, as I understand it, on the website.
Do you know about all this?
Well, partly, Your Honour. There's certainly been discussions that I haven't been party to as to what redactions may or may not be made, and as I understand it, we have made all of the redactions which we think are sensible and reasonable, having regard to the ruling Your Honour made on the first day of this case study. As I understand it, following what Your Honour said about considering reasonably taking down the material relevant to this case study when the trial is on or shortly beforehand, that should have, as I understood it, removed any of the remaining obstacles. However, if there are still matters that my friend's team wishes to discuss, we'll do so.
But what's the position? Are there documents then that haven't been put onto the website but which are in evidence? Is that what it amounts to?
Yes, Your Honour.
Are there many of those documents?
That are not on the website. I don't think any of them are on the website yet. Well, they weren't this morning at least.
None of the exhibits?
Nothing's gone up yet, I understand, Your Honour.
Oh, it should have by now.
Yes.
There's a public interest in knowing what the exhibits are.
Which is why I particularly wanted to tender the last exhibits today. I mean, as I understand it, we've done our best.
Mr Burke, this is not a very happy position because the public's entitled to know what's happening here, and the documents are of course important, particularly for those who have the responsibility of reporting what's happening here.
Yes. Your Honour, what I'm trying to do here is save using hearing time in making submissions about all these documents to simply put in a document that Your Honour can then make a ruling
That's going to
upon.
take days. No, that's not satisfactory.
Oh, well, I'm not seeking to stop the Commission from putting the material up on the website because the material's already been tendered, some of it, and my learned friends have agreed to redact it after it's been tendered in any event. So it's not an application that the material not be put up on the website.
Well, as long as that's understood, then there's no problem if there's to be further redactions later, but that's a recognition that the press will be able to publish anything that's found in the documents that go onto the website at this stage. Is that understood?
That's understood.
Well, as I understand it, Your Honour, the documents are ready to go. We have been faithfully negotiating with the state in terms of those redactions before we did so, and it was indeed at their request that we hadn't put it up. But as I indicated earlier to my friend, I was going to tender these documents this afternoon, and that's what I've done, and the documents will go on the website this afternoon.
Does anyone else want to say anything about this? No. All right, well, with that understanding, Mr Burke, yes, you can file the document and the matter will be processed in the ordinary course, but the document should go onto the website so everyone knows what we've been talking about for the last 4 days.
That's right, please.
Right. Anything else?
No.
10 o'clock on Monday morning.